Hello, parents. We're going to be talking about 5 quick parent tips for distance learning success. My name is Vivian Rodriguez Eads. I'm a school psychologist and a program administrator for the Los Nietos School District and WACSEP for the Pride program at Los Nietos Middle School. Okay, so before we start, we want to remember that this is a stressful time, is a time of learning for all of us. We are learning to be flexible and patient with ourselves and others. Okay, so tip 1, we want to set up the learning area. So you want to have your students set up in a space that has a table or a desk, a flat surface, and you might need to be creative. So you might need to move some furniture around to create the space. You also want to make sure that they have all of their materials available. They're going to be switching from different subjects and assignments, so it'd be really helpful to have those materials available for them. Also, you want to have enough room for the Chromebooks and the materials they need to use. So that way they can kind of spread out a bit, and if they need to be on their device or they need to do some writing, they have the space to do so. Also, if they can use the same space every day, that'd be helpful. We want to kind of recreate that feeling of school in the home setting, and giving them a consistent space can help them do that. Okay, continuing with tip 1, with setting up the learning area, you want to have a space with minimal distractions. So that means try to not have a space that has a lot of family going back and forth or walking through, which is really tough, right? So what you might want to do is kind of set some expectations with the other family members. For instance, if the student is using the kitchen, maybe during certain hours, people aren't going back and forth through the kitchen, and they're just kind of, keeping in mind when there's more instruction going on for the student, so we minimize those distractions. The other thing you can do to decrease distractions would be having your student use earbuds, like the one I have on now, for a couple of reasons. For the reducing of distractions, because they can just hear the instruction from the teacher, and it also has a microphone so that the teacher, well, if it has a microphone, then the teacher can hear them clearly when they respond. You could also consider having white noise in the background. So maybe a vent going or a fan, something to kind of drown out other distractions that might be in the setting. So at home, you might have more than one student who's doing distance learning. So having some white noise may help the students not hear each other when they're in a Zoom session with the teacher, for instance. Okay, tip 2, have a schedule, but be flexible. So this is a time of lots of flexibility, a lot of adapting, and things have to change sometimes. So you want to have a schedule so that you have some structure similar to school. And for students, for kids, this really helps because structure and a schedule is soothing to them. It's something that gives them some kind of predictability. Right? So this means having a regular bedtime as you would during the school year when you're going to campus, going to your school site, getting ready for school in the morning. So that means, taking a shower or whatever they would usually do, but getting ready for the day will help them be more successful with their distance learning. The other thing is you want to think of a schedule as a plan for the day. So it's just a game plan, and it's adding that predictability for the student and letting them know this is what we're doing today, but being okay if you need to make some changes. And also, when the students take a break, when they have like their nutrition break or their recess or lunch break, make sure they do something, some activity. Be very intentional about that time. They need to get up. They're not used to sitting for extended periods of time. And all of us, we just need some movement sometimes. So make sure they have like a snack or something, or get up, maybe play. So something to kind of give them a brain break from what they've been doing. And then you also want to go over the schedule with your students so that they can own the schedule, so that they own the routine, just like they would with school where they know what's coming next. Continuing with tip 2 and having a schedule, you don't have to have a complicated schedule. It can be what works for you. It could be written on a piece of paper, or it could be printed out in something a bit fancier. It really just depends on what your family needs. So we don't want to put pressure on ourselves to create a certain schedule because it might need to change. So, if you could just write down what you're thinking will work for your student. And then if you think this is going to be a good plan, you guys are going to stick with it. Maybe you do want to type it up, print it out, or maybe you want to write it, in marker or something. Anything that will help it be very visible for the student and easy to follow. And then you're going to make adjustments to the routine as needed. There might be, on a Tuesday, there's other things going on that have to do with the rest of the family. So the routine has to change a little bit. So we're modeling for our kids how to be flexible, how to adapt, how to roll with things, and that's calming to them. And you also want to look at how are they responding to the schedule. If you are trying to do too many things in the afternoon or too many things in the morning, maybe make some changes there so that we can help them be successful and that we're not adding to any stress they may be feeling. And then you want to think about your own schedule and the rest of the family. So this is different than at school. The schedule is, whatever's going on in their classroom at school. But when you're at home, things kind of are blending together. So think about the rest of the family and come up with a plan that can work, because really your goal is to figure out a rhythm for your family to be able to function and kind of work through this time. Okay, tip 3, you want to check in with your student. So you want to figure out ways throughout the day to see how your student is doing, depending on their age, right? If they're younger, they might need a little bit more assistance navigating the different platforms and internet usage. If they're older, they might be, once they kind of get it, they are able to do it. So for your little ones, you might just walk over and see if they're okay and they're doing okay. You want to have the learning space close by to you, but not too close that you're part of the classroom, because that's not how school is. And then for your older students, you might even just do a thumbs up, you good, you got it. And then you'll be checking the Google Classroom and other parent portals to kind of figure out, how they're doing with their classwork. So questions you can ask your student. You can ask them, what assignments are you working on today? Are you understanding your work? Did you turn in your homework in Google Classroom? So things that are very specific instead of how did it go today? Because they could say great and they didn't get anything done or they didn't understand it. So kind of directing your questions to the things they need to do throughout the day. Tip 4, you want to provide your student with positive feedback. It's really important that we encourage the behaviors we want to see more of, right? So a positive would be, hey, great job, right? Versus the redirections or corrections. So we want to think of doing 5 positives for every redirection or correction we do with our student. So we want to acknowledge this is a difficult time. It's very, different too than what they usually expect for school. So you want to start with praising them for their efforts for completing a task. So before completing an assignment, you really got to put effort to do it. So you're praising them for getting started and sticking with the task. Also, when you're having positive interactions, that's going to help you connect with your student. It's going to help you establish some positive connections with them during this time. So here's some ways that you can give them specific positive feedback. So non-verbally, you could be going, hey, thumbs up, high five. And then later on, maybe explain why you were giving the nonverbal type of thing. I would do the nonverbals when it's a time you don't want to disrupt the instruction, but you want to acknowledge that you like what they're doing and that you want them to keep going. Verbally, say, hey, you're doing a great job with your math, or I can tell you're working hard on your writing. So again, it's not whether they got it right or wrong, it's just that they're trying and you see them working. Tip 5, don't forget to communicate. We are all learning together through this unique time. You want to reach out to your teacher if your student is having difficulties, because they won't know if they're not learning, if we're not communicating, right? So we want to make sure you let them know if you're seeing some difficulties and let them know early so that we can figure out how to course correct. You also want to connect with your teachers in different ways. You can use the Remind or Dojo if that's what they're doing. You could use email. Also office hours, just popping in and letting the teacher know, hey, I noticed they're having trouble with X, Y, and Z. And that is pretty much it. I'm hoping that these 5 quick tips got you started in having some success with distance learning. We'll have more series like that. If you're liking these, let us know so that we can figure out some other topics for you.